Is this hell on earth? It's something a lot of people use, isn't it? It's a term that a lot of people adopt into everyday life, whereby they talk about hell on earth. Well, from a biblical perspective, there is a place called heaven, there is a place called hell. Both are in the future, if you like. Jesus said on the day of judgment that the sheep will go one way, the goats will go the other. He wasn't talking about literal animals, but talking about people based on whether we accept or we reject him. And then we go to an eternal destination, some to heaven and some to hell. So in that sense, hell isn't a place on earth. It's somewhere that is, if you like, in the future. But this term, this phrase, this way of speaking that people have about hell on earth, what they're meaning and what they're referring to is that they're going through horrendous situations, they're going through extremely difficult circumstances that are termed hell on earth. I think mostly, and I use the term mostly very carefully, mostly what we go through in terms of hell on earth, I use inverted commas there, experiences, are down basically to the decisions that we make, the choices that we make in life. Every single choice that we make, every decision that we make has a consequence. It's called sowing and reaping. Just like there's a law of gravity, for example, there's a spiritual law of sowing and reaping. Every single decision that we make has a consequence. I read quite recently in the news, online, all my stuff's online these days, very rarely read a newspaper as in paper print, but reading online, I read a story of a family down the south of England somewhere that had reached a point where they were having to sell the house just to pay the legal fees and the costs of a dispute with a neighbour that had started over a hedge, a Leylandii hedge. It started over something simple like that, but because they weren't prepared to let it go, because they held on to it and nursed it and fed it, it went from being a molehill to a mountain. And it got to the stage whereby they're going to lose everything. And typical picture in the newspaper, it showed the family group outside their house, which was a lovely looking house, by the way, all looking sad and despondent, as if what had happened was a result of something outside of their circumstances, when in fact it was down to their stubbornness, it was down to their pride, it was down to the fact that they couldn't let something go. Now in life there are times when we have to hang on to something. There are times when you don't let it go. There are times when you see it through. But I think that has to be, certainly in the context of just ordinary everyday things happening to us, that has to be the exception rather than the rule. I think as default, we have to set in our lives, let it go. Don't hold on to it, don't feed it, don't nurture it, because it will grow and it will become a monster that will take us over. And often people, mostly what we live through that we call hell on earth, is because we've made wrong decisions. Don't make decisions based on anger, based on emotion. Step back. If we do have to see something through, let it be, because we're thinking logically, because we're thinking rationally, because it really is the right thing to do in our lives. But of course, as you may say, there will always be times when what happens to us isn't down to the decision that we've made. I again read in the news a young girl, I think she was about 6 years of age, was mowed down by a car and killed. The parents were just crossing the road, or the mother was crossing the road, and the car ran her down and killed her. Now that family, you could say, are going through hell on earth, and it's nothing to do with their decisions, and of course you would be right, but it is to do with the decision of the driver of the car. People choose to drink and drive. People choose to speed. People choose to ignore red lights. People choose to do all manner of things like be on the mobile phone while they're driving, checking something while they're driving instead of pulling over. People choose to do all those things, and just like ourselves, every decision has a consequence that affects not just our own life but also the lives of other people as well. So whether it's the mostly in our own life or whether it's the mostly plus what other people do, the fact remains that hell on earth is created by the decisions that people have made. The wrong decisions, I might add, not right ones, of course. So hell on earth, does it exist? Well, in terms of a literal place, like the Bible talks about heaven and hell, well, no. Because that is, as we've said, some place for the future, if you like. But in the here and now, do we go through those experiences that many people, some people, call hell on earth? Well, yes, we do go through those types of situations in our lives. They can last for days, they can last for weeks, months, in some cases years. But mostly it's because we made the wrong decision. And when it isn't us making the wrong decision, it's because someone else did. What we can learn from that is, as much as possible, sow good decision seeds in our lives. Because every seed that we sow will produce a harvest. So if we sow a bad decision seed, hell on earth. But if we sow a good decision seed, peace, tranquility, contentment, and all those other things that follow.